Okay, thank you very much for joining. So today we are starting our new unit, which is Unit 3, Data and Database System. So this is level 4 qualification, and this is 15 credit unit, which is going to be added on with the other unit to make up to your 60 or 120 credit unit. And in this unit, the aim, say we're now looking at the aim where all IT professional rules will bring practitioners into contact with data and databases. So for example, analysts will now gather, organize, and manipulate data for use in a variety of ways. Cybersecurity technicians will manage the privacy and security of data and data system. Software developers and DevOps engineers will now create and maintain system containing complex data. So this unit is basically going to be introducing the learner to data and database system by exploring the concept of data modeling, and creating system to hold and manage data. So for our unit, we have 3 learning outcomes, which we will cover in 3 sessions. And we'll also have our assignments discussion where we'll go through everything we need to know in order for us to complete our assignment. So today's session, we're going to look at understand what is meant by data. So I do have a presentation here. So what do we mean by data? We're now going to refer to any raw and processed fact and figures collected in various sources. So data could be any sort of information regarding an individual, such as name, date of birth, address, or so on. So these are all of them raw information that we now have about this individual, and we can now use them and based on what we have to do. Say, for instance, we have to create a database, or we need to store data regarding our new customer, or so on. So there is a nice video that I would like to share with you. So let me just pause this recording. Okay, so this video gave us a quick introduction to big data and what we will be covering in today's session. So we've looked into 3 types of data, such as structured data, unstructured data, and semi-structured. So what do we know by this? We know that when they have structured data, we have the ability to search. We have the ability to organize and easily search by simple, straightforward algorithms. With unstructured data, this is basically going to lack a predefined structure, which is going to make it more challenging for us to gather, process, and analyze our data. And with semi-structured data is simply a mix state between structured and unstructured, where this data does not come from the strict structural definition, but is now going to contain tags or markers to separate our data element. So example of these are our JSON files, XML files, and non-SQL databases like MongoDB. What are the characteristics of data? So let's now look into the key characteristics, which are going to include volume, velocity, variety, veracity, and value. So we've seen through our previous video where volume is basically stands for the amount of data that is generated and stored into our databases. Velocity, we're now looking into at the speed which we're going to be processing our data. Variety, where we're going to look into the type of data collected, such as structured, unstructured, or semi-structured. Veracity, so we're now going to look into trustworthiness, accuracy of our data, and the value. So we're going to look into the benefit, the outcome of collecting our data. So we now know that each IT professional role is now going to interact with data on a day-to-day with the job. So depending on the job title and whatever you do, you know you will come across the data. So for instance, our data analyst, we're going to gather, organize, and manipulate the data to extract meaningful insight. Then we have cybersecurity technicians who have to ensure that there is data integrity. And our software developers are those who are building our softwares and deploying it. And our DevOps engineers are basically sitting in between our developers and our IT professional teams, and they're going to maintain the system that are managing complex data. So what is data modeling? By data modeling, we're now going to, it is a very critical aspect of database designing, where it basically involving creating a visual representation of our system. So what are the key aspects of data modeling? We have conceptual data modeling, logical data model, and physical data model. So by conceptual, is going to now provide a high level of overview of our system. Our logical data model is going to offer more detail than our conceptual model can offer. And our physical data model is going to detail how our data will be stored into our database. So the significances of data, where we have now, where we know that our data is now going to be driving all the businesses within any sector, is now going to also enhance our customer experience. And we're also going to be creating a competitive advantages for our business. So we're now having more value added into our business. Also, other benefit that we have with big data is that it's going to make informed decision based on empirical evidences. So we had the example where they were able to predict hurricanes by just collecting data and evidences, and they can predict when the next one could be. We can identify trends and patterns that can lead to new opportunities. So when it comes to data prediction, this allows us to, for example, we can have Aldi store where they can now predict what the customer is going to buy next. Say, for instance, they're buying milk, they can now predict that our customer is more likely to buy bread as well with the milk. So you're now going to improve operational efficiency by optimizing the process. And also we're going to enhance our security by identifying and mitigating potential threats. So to conclude, we now know that understanding data and its various dimensions, it is fundamental for IT professionals. Okay, now we're going to look into our first learning outcome, where we're now going to describe different categories of data. So what are these different categories? By these categories, these are now crucial for effective data management, privacy, and utilization of IT roles. So we have open data and public data. So our open data, it is freely available for anyone to access, use, modify, and share, which typically, for example, these are released by governments, organization, or institution to promote transparency and public engagement. Public data, it is very similar to our open data, but with public data, it's also accessible to anyone, but it might not be always be as friendly, modifiable, or distributable as open data. So for example, this can now include information that is available to the public domain, such as weather reports, census data, or even publicity available research publications. On the other hand, we have private data, which is restricted and confidential, and is only accessible to only authorized individuals in organizations. Internal data, which is pretty much similar to private data. This is generated and used within an organization. So the data is not intended to be made public, available to individuals, but is just going to be used within the organization. Research data, where we're now going to is going to be collected, observed, and generated in the course of research project. So you can now include experimental resources, experimental results, survey data, and other sort of data type pertinent to our research. Big data, as we've seen from our video, it now refers to extremely large data sets that cannot be easily managed, processed, and analyzed. So we know that the big data is characterized by the 3V, volume, velocity, and variety. So here we have a summary table for our open data, public data, private data, internal data, research data, and big data. Learning outcome 2, we're now going to explain the difference between structured and unstructured data. So each type has a unique characteristic, and they all used within various IT context. So what are the benefits of structured data? This is going to highlight, this have highly organized and easy searchable data. So it always comes on the format of a schema, where we know that we can now access our individual credential because we have a very organized schema. So here are the benefits. So here are the key concept when it comes to organization. This is structured data, and this is systematically organized. The nature, it is factual or based on fact. Format, always using numeric or textual. Storage, these can be stored in relational databases such as SQL databases, where we're going to use relational database management system, RDBMS, yeah, relational database management system. So unstructured data, this, on the other hand, lacks of a predefined format of schema. So we now have in our JSON file with all our structured data. So this often is often qualitative and encompassed a variety of data type, which is going to make it more challenging to process and analyze. So when it's unstructured data, it does not follow a specific organization pattern. It has a varied and it is varied and qualitative, which can include subject data. This is unstructured, so that means it's going to include images, audio, video, files, emails, social media posts, and so on. Where is it going to be stored? So this is typically stored in data lakes or non-SQL databases such as MongoDB. And also now we have semi-structured data, which falls between structured and unstructured. This is now going to, this does not allow to have a rigid structure, and it contains tags, markers to separate data elements. So where do we find this? This is going to contain tags, markers, and lack of fully defined structure. Can be contained in, again, into our structured and unstructured element. And what is it going to include? You will now include log files, JSON files, XML files, and HTML document. Storage, so this is often stored into our non-SQL databases. And here we have a summary. We have a table which summarizes our structured, unstructured, and semi-structured data. Okay, so on our learning outcome 3, we're now going to explain the concept of data type and structures and the importance of selecting the most appropriate data type or of identify data items. So when it comes to data types and data structure, which I hope this isn't not confusing. When it comes to programming, say for instance, we're programming with Java, we will now have our data type. So we now have our integers, variables, string. Now we have our integers, string, boolean, doubles, or so on, depending if we need to declare numbers, letters, or maybe checking if our condition is true or false. So by having all of this, we're now referring to our data type. So before declaring our variable, we need to identify which data type we're working with. Data structure, on the other hand, allows us to not create a bunch of unreadable and messy code. So the purpose of data structure is to keep our data as simple and easy as possible. So example of data type, we have linked list, stack, queues, maps, graphic recursions, and so on. So depending on what application we're going to build, we now need to choose the appropriate data type that allows us to keep our data structured. So data type, when we come to text, we know we're now going to work with a string. So string is just a data type that allows us to have a sequence of characters. And as I said, it is now used to be storing text such as name, addresses, or any alphabetical data. So after string, we have integers, byte, long, floating point, decimal, and complex. So depending on the values that we're going to work with, we now have to choose our appropriate numeric data type. Boolean, again, allows us to check if our condition is true or false. Data and time represent calendar data and time. Timestamp is a combination of date and time, often with precision to the second of milliseconds. Sequences, which are our data structure, are a bit more complex concept to understand, but once we understand this, we can now leverage this and create our efficient code. So sequences, we have arrays, where we can look at arrays like containers, where we don't want to repeat a function. So we now create our array, which is going to keep on repeating this until we give a condition for our array to stop. So we have array and multi-dimensional arrays, where they're going to work with column and rows. So for example, declare our first array with value of X and our second array with the value of Y or Z. Stack, again, is a very important data structure, which is the collection where elements are added and removed in a listing, on a sequence of last in and first out manner. So I think this is used. So if we take the example of, I think Spotify, where we have the ability to move forward to 1 second to one music, and we can have the ability to take it back to the previous song. So we have last in and first out. Queue, which is a collection where elements are added and removed in a first in, first out manner. Linked list is a sequence of elements where each element points to the next using a dynamic data structure. Then we have also set and maps, where is unordered collection of unique elements used for membership testing and eliminating duplicates. DiC is a collection of key value pairs, also known as dictionary or hash map, used for fast lookup. So hash map is very used in as a data structure. So the importance of selecting the appropriate data type, again, depending on what application we're building, it is important for us to make the right choice. So the importance for this, we now have efficiency, accuracy, readability, maintenance, and scalability. Here we have a summary where we looked into where it shows us the descriptions, example, and usage of them. Now we have come to our final learning outcome, which is our merit criteria. We're now going to assess the importance of data classification. So why is this important? This is critical process in data management, which is going to involve categorizing data based on its sensitivity, value, importance to the organization. So we're now going to have effective data classification, which enable organization to manage, protect, and use their data efficiently and securely. So what are these importance? So the importance we're going to look into are regulatory compliance. So for instance, we have legal requirement where where many industries are now governed by strict data protection regulations, such as GDPR or Health Insurance Portability and Accountability Act and Data Protection Act 2018. Audit and reporting. So this is a proper data classification, which facilitates a smoother audit and regulatory reporting by clearly identifying our regulated data and its handling practices. Standards and best practice. So when it comes to industry standard, these are now going to include ISO, IEC 27001 for information security management, which requires effective data classification. Data integrity, where we have accuracy and consistency. So the data classification will now helping in maintaining the accuracy and consistency of our data across organization. Error detection. So by classifying data, organizations can implement specific control to detect and correct errors and ensuring the integrity of critical data assets. Access control, where we're going to have data classification that allows organization to enforce access control based on data security. Encryption and masking, where the concept of encryption allows us to have our sensitive data encrypted, and this encrypted message cannot be decrypted by hackers or unauthorized users. Threat mitigation. So by understanding the sensitivity and value of different data type, our organization can now implement tailored security measures to mitigate threats. Incident response. So we need to have effective data classification aids in developing a robust incident response plan. Rule-based access control, which is going to be on an access level where with this support, with data classification support, is going to support the implementation of our rule-based access control by now assigning data access permission based on our individual roles within the organization. Segmentation, these different segment of data, such as public, internal, confidential, and restricted, can be created through classification. Usage guide, we're now going to look into classification provided on a framework for creating data usage policies and outline how different type of data should be handled, processed, and shared. Training and awareness with clear data classification. Now organization can train the employees on data handling procedures specific to the role, increasing awareness and reducing the risk of accidental data breaches. Here we have a summary for all of them. So now we have our distinction task, where we're going to evaluate the importance of data to an organization. So why is data important for our organization? This is important because we're now going to properly manage data to ensure that we have accuracy, efficiency, and security, which are now critical for our business success. So here are some of the key concepts that we need to look for. So we have to ensuring correct input and storage. So we now have accurate data capture, where we now have the ability of selecting the correct data type to ensure that input accurately captured and stored. So examples, losing precisions in financial calculation if numbers are stored as integer instead of floats could lead to significant financial discrepancies. Output presentation. So with the proper data type, this allow for the correct formatting of output, ensuring that the data presented to our users are going to be meaningful and readable. Data manipulation, where we're now going to have programming languages that offer built-in libraries that can provide functions to manipulate specific data type efficiently. So for example, strings manipulation functions such as concatenation, substring, extraction, and pattern matching requires an understanding of string data type. Also now, we're looking into field identification, where with the proper data types ensures that databases field accept and store data accurately. Data integrity. We're basically going to look into not having any sort of data breach, for example. So our input masking and validation techniques will now rely on correct data type to ensure that these input are valid and formatted correctly before being stored. Storage efficiency. So we now have an understanding of data type, which helps in calculating and optimizing the storage requirements for databases. So here again, in summary, we have we can see the importance, and we have a clear example. So to conclude, understanding our data type and structure, it is crucial for both programming and database management within our organization. So this was everything for today's session. Is there any question for me?
Hey Victor, thanks for that. Just check. So I was just looking at the criteria. Did we go over understanding the importance of data to an organization? I know we just looked at one. Maybe I'm being daft. Yeah.
Which learning outcome was that again?
It'd be 1D1.
Yes, that's the one I just looked in.
Was it?
Yeah.
Okay, sorry, I was
Was it
going
not
along
clear?
with you, but then I was also
Oh.
trying to catch up to where you were. There,
Oh,
okay,
sorry.
cool. Yeah, no, that's fine. It's just I don't recall seeing the 1D1 part, so I must have been looking at mine whilst you were showing that part. Sorry.
Okay.
So I was like, this sounds like it covers it, but you haven't said 1D1 yet. So don't
Oh,
worry.
sorry. Yeah, I said
That's all right.
about
Don't worry about it.
distinction
No,
learning
that was
outcome.
me. That was me being
Okay.
silly. Just trying to do two things at once. Looking at the lesson, we're obviously delivering it. Right. Another question I had, but it's kind of separate from the criteria and stuff. It's just about like scoring with regards to like learning outcomes. I was just trying to think of the actual wording for it, like the credit values. That's it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I remember like right at the beginning, I think it was with RAM when I was
Yeah.
going through it all. I think you're saying like, to get a distinction overall, you have to get like so many credits or whatever, which could be a mixture of distinction, merit, pass. Ideally, I would like to try and go for distinction across
Yeah.
everything.
Yes.
So that's why I plan to go back and look at
Yes.
programming and scripting. But I just wondered, like, because I couldn't find it anywhere, like where that's actually sort of like laid out, where it says like, I don't know, it's 120 credits overall, 80 to 120 credits would be distinction, 40 to 80 would be merit, 0 to 40 would be a pass overall. Is that recorded anywhere? Do you know?
Oh, the like a grid where it shows
Yeah,
the score.
how the overall credit values across the whole of the course
I'm
will.
not quite sure where to find that one.
Yeah, no, I don't think it would
I
be
don't
in.
have it. Yeah.
Yeah,
I'm
no, that's
sorry, I
fine.
don't have it. You might have to email someone from the admission team, like maybe
Yeah, that's fine.
with learner work, and they can forward it to you.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I'm sorry, I don't have it with me.
yeah, no, that's fine. I just thought maybe you might have a copy. All right, brilliant. In that case, yeah, that was my only question.
Okay. Okay. That's it. So if we don't have any other question, then I will see you tomorrow. Thank you for joining and have a good day.
You too, Victor. Have a good day. See you.